My friend stole my jewelry to pawn it. I didn't cry. I showed up to her game night with receipts and left. Her stuttering excuse was pathetic. You know how they say trust your gut? Well, mine was screaming at me for weeks before I finally listened. I'm 24, work at a marketing firm downtown, and thought I had my crew figured out. Turns out, one of my oldest friends was playing a completely different game than the rest of us. It all started after Tara's birthday party 3 weeks ago. Real low-key thing at her apartment. Just our usual squad, some takeout from that Thai place on 5th Street, and way too many margaritas made with bottom-shelf tequila. Nothing fancy, just us hanging out like we'd been doing since high school. The next morning, nursing what felt like the worst hangover in human history, I was getting ready for work when I noticed something off. My jewelry box looked different. Not empty, but definitely rearranged. My grandmother's gold ring with the tiny diamond, the one she gave me before she passed, was missing. So were my pearl earrings, the ones I splurged on with my first real paycheck. At first, I figured I'd just misplaced them. You know how it is when you're cleaning up after a night out. Stuff gets moved around, ends up in weird places. I tore my apartment apart looking for them, checked the couch cushions, under the bed, even in the fridge because apparently drunk me has done stranger things. Nothing. I called Tara, asking if maybe I'd left them at her place. She seemed genuinely confused, said she hadn't seen anything, offered to look around. Even came over that weekend to help me search my place again. We spent hours going through everything, and she was so helpful, so concerned. I felt bad for even suspecting anyone from our group. 2 weeks went by. I'd pretty much given up hope and was thinking about filing an insurance claim when something wild happened. I was walking past Murphy's pawn shop on my lunch break. No, that sketchy little place next to the subway that always has neon signs flickering in the window. Something in the jewelry display caught my eye. My ring. My grandmother's ring. Just sitting there behind the glass like it belonged there. Update. Just walked into the pawn shop and my heart is pounding. The guy behind the counter looks like he's seen some stuff but seems decent enough. About to ask him about my ring. What would you do if you found your stolen jewelry in a pawn shop? Would you confront the person who sold it or handle it differently? I marched inside, trying to keep my cool but probably looking like I was about to lose it. The guy behind the counter, maybe in his 50s, wearing a Harley-Davidson shirt that had seen better days, looked up from whatever he was scrolling through on his phone. Help you with something? I pointed at my ring. That gold ring with the small diamond. Where did you get it? His expression shifted, got a little more cautious. Someone brought it in a couple weeks ago. Why? You interested in buying it? Someone stole it from me. I need to know who sold it to you. Now he really looked uncomfortable, started fidgeting with a pen on the counter. Look, I can't just give out customer information like that, but... He paused, studying my face. You got any proof it's yours? Receipt, photos, anything? I pulled out my phone, showed him pictures from my grandmother's funeral where I was wearing the ring, showed him the insurance documentation I'd started filling out. His whole demeanor changed. Man, that sucks. Yeah, I remember who brought this. Young woman, maybe your age, blonde hair, said it was her grandmother's too. Seemed legit at the time. He shook his head. This happens more than you'd think. People selling stuff that ain't theirs. My stomach dropped. Blonde hair. Tara's. Blonde hair. I need to buy it back, I said. Cost you $80. That's what I paid for it. So I'm not making anything on this deal. I handed over the cash without hesitation. As he was getting the paperwork together, I asked if he remembered anything else about the woman who sold it. Yeah, actually, she asked. About selling some pearl earrings too, but I told her we weren't taking jewelry that day unless it was gold or silver. She seemed disappointed. The pearl earrings, she still had them. Walking back to work, ring safely in my pocket, I felt sick. Not just disappointed or upset, physically nauseated that someone I'd trusted since we were 15 had stolen from me, had looked me in the eye while helping me search for something she'd taken. I started thinking back over the past few years, and suddenly a bunch of stuff made sense. How Tara always seemed to have nice things despite working part-time at a clothing store. How she'd borrow clothes or accessories and return them weeks later, sometimes looking a little worn. How she always seemed to know exactly where to look when we were helping each other find lost items. That evening, I did some detective work, went through old photos on Instagram and Facebook, looking for pictures of Tara wearing jewelry that looked familiar. Found 3 instances where she was wearing earrings I was pretty sure I'd owned and lost over the past 2 years. Then I checked our text messages from the day after her party. Me. Hey, did I leave my ring and earrings at your place? Can't find them anywhere. Tara. No, haven't seen them. That sucks though. I'll keep an eye out. Me. Thanks. They're really important to me, especially the ring. Tara. I know, you've told me about your grandma before. Hope they turn up. Reading it now, knowing what I knew, made my skin crawl. She'd been lying to my face while probably planning her next trip to the pawn shop. I needed a plan. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew she'd just deny everything. I needed solid proof, and I needed witnesses. Update. Found more evidence that my friend has been stealing from me for years, going through old photos and texts, and it's worse than I thought. She's been playing the long game. Tomorrow night is her weekly game night with our friend group. Should I expose her in front of everyone or handle this privately? My hands are literally shaking as I type this. Game. Night at Tara's happened every Thursday. Usually just 5 or 6 of us playing Cards Against Humanity or some random board game she'd picked up at Target. This week, I knew exactly what game we'd be playing, and it wasn't going to be fun for her. I spent Wednesday evening getting my evidence together. Printed out the receipt from the pawn shop, screenshot our text conversation, found those Instagram photos and saved them. Even wrote down a timeline of other things that had gone missing over the years that I now suspected she'd taken. Thursday. Evening rolled around and I showed up to Tara's apartment with a folder tucked under my arm like I was heading to a business meeting. Everyone else was already there. Marcus, Jessica, Sam, and Katie. All people I'd known for years, people who trusted Tara just as much as I had. "Hey, girl," Tara called out from the kitchen. "I just opened a bottle of that wine you like. Come, get some." The normalcy of it all made me even angrier. She was acting like nothing had happened, like she hadn't betrayed one of her oldest friends. We settled into our usual spots around her coffee table. Tara had set out some cheese and crackers, dimmed the lights a little, put on a Spotify playlist that had probably been curated to seem effortlessly cool. Everything looked perfect, felt comfortable. It was about to get very uncomfortable. "Actually, before we start playing anything," I said, standing up and opening my folder, "I need to share something with everyone." The room got quiet real quick. Marcus paused mid-sip of his beer. Jessica looked confused, and Tara's smile faltered just enough that I knew she sensed something was wrong. 3 weeks ago, after your birthday party, some of my jewelry went missing. My grandmother's ring and my pearl earrings. I pulled out the pawn shop receipt. Today, I found my ring at Murphy's pawn shop downtown. According to the guy who runs the place, a blonde woman sold it to him 2 weeks ago. You could hear a pin drop. Tara had gone completely pale. The woman who sold my ring told him it was her grandmother's ring. She also asked about selling pearl earrings, but he wasn't buying that day. I looked directly at Tara. "Funny coincidence, right?" I don't understand what you're implying." Tara stammered, but her voice was shaky. I pulled out my phone, showed everyone the text conversation. "Here's where I asked if you'd seen my jewelry. Here's where you said you hadn't, and offered to help me look for it. Here's where you came to my apartment and spent hours pretending to help me search for something you'd already sold." Jessica gasped. Sam just stared. Marcus set down his beer and leaned forward. "This is crazy," Tara said, standing up quickly. "You're accusing me of stealing from you? We've been friends since high school." "Yeah, we have, which makes this so much worse." I pulled out the printed Instagram photos. "Here's you wearing my gold hoops from 2 summers ago. Here's you in my silver bracelet at Marcus's graduation party. Here's you in earrings that look exactly like the ones I lost last Christmas." I placed everything on the coffee table. The receipt, the screenshots, the photos, my handwritten timeline. I'm not asking anyone to pick sides. I'm just sharing facts. Make your own decisions about what kind of person does this to their friends. Tara was crying now, but they looked more like angry tears than sad ones. "You're humiliating me in front of our friends over some stupid jewelry." "I'm humiliating you?" I grabbed my purse. "You stole from me. You lied to my face for weeks. You helped me search for something you'd already pawned for $80. You humiliated yourself." I headed toward the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Tara? I'd like my pearl earrings back. Tonight would be good." I left copies of everything on her coffee table and walked out while she was still trying to explain herself to everyone else. Could hear her voice getting higher and more desperate as I walked down the hallway. My phone started buzzing before I even made it to my car. Update. Just exposed my thieving friend in front of our entire group. Left her apartment with all the evidence on her coffee table while she tried to make excuses. Phone is blowing up and I'm sitting in my car trying to process what just happened. Did I handle this right? Was I too harsh? My heart is racing, but honestly, I feel relieved. The first call was from Jessica. "Girl, are you okay? That was intense." "I'm fine, just tired of being lied to." "I believe you." Looking at those photos, I remember thinking it was weird how she always had jewelry that looked expensive for someone working retail part-time. Marcus texted, "That took guts. Sorry you had to deal with that." Katie called 20 minutes later. "Tara's losing it. Keeps saying you set her up, that you're jealous of her or something." But honestly, I've been wondering about some stuff for a while. She borrowed my leather jacket last year and returned it with a weird stain that wasn't there before. Sam was more direct. Always thought something was off about her. "Remember when she found my lost car keys in her purse that one time? Said they must have fallen in there at the bar, but I never set my purse down near hers." Around 11 that night, Tara finally called me. "Can we please talk about this like adults?" She sounded exhausted. "Sure. Start by apologizing and giving me my earrings back. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was going through a really tough time financially, and I saw your jewelry sitting there, and I panicked. I was going to buy it back before you noticed." "With what money?" "You sold my grandmother's ring for $80. Silence on her end. "The earrings, Tara, tonight." She showed up at my apartment an hour later, looking like she'd been crying for hours. Handed over my pearl earrings without saying much. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference." She tried to argue, said I was being unfair, that she'd made a mistake but didn't deserve to lose all her friends over it. I told her that was between her and them, but stealing from people tends to have consequences. After she left, I sat in my living room looking at my recovered jewelry and felt empty. Not happy, not sad, just drained. I'd gotten my stuff back, but I'd also lost someone I'd considered family for almost 10 years. The next few weeks were weird. Our friend group basically split up. Marcus, Jessica, Katie, and Sam all stopped hanging out with Tara. She tried reaching out to each of them individually, trying to explain her side, but apparently her story kept changing depending on who she was talking to. I heard through Katie that Tara had started telling people I'd overreacted, that it was all a misunderstanding, that she'd been planning to return everything. but the damage was done. Word got around school. We all went to the same community college, and her reputation was pretty much shot. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I decided to take legal action. Not because I was vindictive, but because I realized this probably wasn't her first time doing this to someone. I filed a police report, handed over all my evidence, and pressed charges for theft. Tara called me crying, begging me to drop the charges, said it would ruin her life, that she'd learned her lesson, that she'd pay me back for everything. You should have thought about that before you stole from someone who trusted you, I told her. The legal stuff took a few months to sort out, but eventually she pleaded guilty to petty theft and had to pay restitution plus court costs. She also had to do community service, which seemed fitting somehow. During all this, I started getting messages from other people who'd known Tara. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Her ex-roommate from sophomore year reached out, said money had gone missing from her purse multiple times. A girl from her work said small items kept disappearing from the break room whenever Tara was on shift. It was like opening a door I didn't know existed and finding a whole different person behind it. 6 months later, I'm in a completely different place. Made some new friends through a jewelry making class I signed up for at the local community center. Turns out, losing my grandmother's ring made me want to learn how to make my own jewelry, stuff that would mean something to me personally. The class is full of interesting people, retirees, artists, young professionals like me who wanted a creative outlet. There's something therapeutic about working with your hands, creating something beautiful from raw materials. Plus, I never have to worry about someone stealing my jewelry when I made it myself and no one else has anything like it. My new friend group is smaller but more genuine. We actually talk about real stuff instead of just gossiping or complaining about work. When someone borrows something, they return it the same week. When someone says they haven't seen your missing item, you believe them. I still see Tara around sometimes. Our town isn't huge, so it's inevitable. She transferred to a different school and got a new job across town, but occasionally we'll end up in the same grocery store or coffee shop. She always looks away first. Last month, Jessica told me Tara had moved in with some guy she'd been dating for like 3 weeks. Apparently, she'd burned through most of her local friendships and needed someone new to rely on. I felt bad for the guy, but not bad enough to warn him. Some lessons you have to learn yourself. The weirdest part about this whole experience is how much it changed my perspective on friendship. I used to think loyalty meant giving people the benefit of the doubt, making excuses for their behavior, putting up with stuff that made me uncomfortable. Now I realize that real loyalty goes both ways, and someone who steals from you was never your friend to begin with. I kept my grandmother's ring, obviously. Wear it more often now, actually. It reminds me not just of her, but of the importance of standing up for yourself when someone tries to take advantage of your trust. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled the situation, if I should have given Tara a chance to explain, privately before involving everyone else. Honestly, no. She had weeks to come clean. She helped me search my apartment for stuff she'd stolen. She looked me in the eye and lied repeatedly. Plus, exposing her probably prevented her from doing the same thing to other people in our group. Marcus told me later that he'd been planning to ask Tara to house sit while he went out of town. Jessica had been thinking about letting Tara borrow some expensive camera equipment for a project. My jewelry box sits on my dresser now with a small lock on it. Not because I don't trust my current friends, but because I've learned that trust is something you earn and maintain, not something you're entitled to just because you've known someone for a long time. The pearl earrings look good with the new necklace I made in class last week. The gold ring catches the light differently now, like it's been through something and came out stronger. Kind of like me, I guess. And Tara? Last I heard, she'd moved 3 towns over with that boyfriend. Part of me hopes she's figured herself out, learned to be honest, stopped taking things that don't belong to her, but mostly I just hope I never have to find out.